What's going on, everybody? Got to put these ear things in tonight. I have a special. I don't really want to say special because of the fact of the subject matter here, but got something special. My dog's trying to get under my desk here. Come on, sugar. So this might be my last live. Usually, I come on here joking around and everything and talk trash about the other side and this, that, and the other, but um, we're not going to be talking trash like that tonight because I got a few serious things going on. Now, we're going to start talking, but I'm not going to talk a whole lot. I'm going to actually let you see the information. We got two little bitty short videos that I'm going to be showing here tonight and to let you make up your mind. But I do want to first talk about California and the governor of California. We all know his name. His name is Gavin Newsom. This man is probably the most evil person walking the country, possibly the earth as we have right now. All right. Um, he's running his state right now, and he's talking about running for the presidency in probably 2024, maybe the next time. But that's in his scope of goals to be as the president. Now, have you ever looked at Gavin Newsom and then go look at any of the movies that portray the end of times? Don't they have a very similar look? I mean, that's just a coincidence, I'm gonna say, but they just have a similar look. Hey, Brandy, how are you? Yes, he does. He needs to be fired completely. But what's going on now is his just about entire stance that he's running on is Roe v. Wade. Okay, now, I know this is a big topic out there and nobody really wants to deal with it because if you on one side, the other side wants to attack you. And if you're on the other side wants to attack you. A lot of attacking going on. So I'm not going to be attacking anything right now. My personal stance is pro life. Okay. And I'll tell you what, if you use basic English here and say, okay, what is the opposite of light? Dark. What is the opposite of sweet? Sour. What is the opposite of pro-life? It's pro-death, not pro-choice. People have pro-choice. Everybody has pro-choice. Everybody should be pro-choice. You have the choice to decide to engage in an activity or a scientific procedure, knowing the possible outcome is going to be having a child grow inside the woman. That's pro-choice because you can choose to or not to. But once there's a child there, I don't care if it's 10 seconds old, 10 seconds after conception, or 10 months old, that child is no longer your body. It is its own separate being, it's a human being. And you hear a lot of this stuff going on about it's just a clump of cells. Well, so are we. We're just in a later stage of development, but we're just one big clump of cells. Okay. So everybody's complaining about this Roe v. Wade thing and how women's rights are being destroyed and everything like that. The only thing that Roe v. Wade did when they turned overruled it and turned it over, it took it out of the federal court system. Now, the states have their own. So if you live in a state, you vote for what you want in the state. If they don't have it on the ballot, you present, you know, a petition to have it put on a ballot. That's how not democracy, if they want to keep calling it, that's how it works. Okay. If it's not on the ballot, you petition, get enough signatures, it will go on the ballot. It's that simple. That's how it works. Okay. But it's out of the federal control. That's actually a good thing because me personally, I am pro-life. I don't want my tax dollars going to fund an abortion, and that's what's been happening. That's why they're mad because the fact that the tax dollars from people that are for and against it are going for abortions. So tax dollars pay for the abortions or a big chunk of it because the abortion industry itself is nothing but a money making train. That's it. And nobody wants to admit that until you start digging deep and find out how much these people are making. Why do you think Planned Parenthood is fighting so hard to continue to be able to do what they do? They want that money. It's money. That's all it is. They don't care about the woman. They don't care about anything. If they cared about the woman, they would go through every single choice that that lady has other than abortion. If we're going to have abortion out there, which we shouldn't, but if we're going to have it out there, then they would discuss that one along with all the other ones as well. Let the person make a choice on the best based on all the knowledge. That's funny because that's exactly what they did with COVID. Took everything away but one thing, but they wouldn't tell anybody anything about anything, and just expected you to follow along the train. So that's what's crazy. But California, being one of the most liberal states we have, already has it legal for abortions. It doesn't matter that Roe v. Wade has been overturned. They have it legal. So there's a few stipulations to somebody wanting to get an abortion in California, okay? And this is what they want to change. But right now, as it stands, the first stipulation, the person performing the abortion must be licensed. Well, duh. Do you want I think I want to be a doctor today and I want to be a brain surgeon. I don't have a license. I don't have the schooling, but I have read a book on it. So now I'm going to perform your brain surgery. No, that's absolutely stupid. That's a moronic thing to act like, let him perform the brain surgery on me. You got a degree? Nope. But I read a book. Okay. So it's the same thing. So California, the way they have it right now, they're trying to make sure that anybody who performs these abominations is actually licensed. So they have to go by the licensing creed, do no harm. So they want to try that binds them into working the best way for the patient, even in a situation that's probably going to mess up the body anyway. Um, and the second thing that they regulate out in California is you can have an abortion until the baby is viable. Now, viable means that it can survive outside the body. It might need a little help. I mean, even a full term baby needs help. Okay. So at about 23, 24 weeks, I think maybe even 20, they said, but about 24 weeks, it's been seen that the baby can survive outside the body. So up to about 24 weeks, California says you can have an abortion. At 24 weeks, you can't unless the viable baby inside poses a serious health risk or death threat to the mom. Well, guess what? At that point, it's no longer an abortion for birth control. It's an abortion for medical necessity for the mom to survive. Totally different ball game, okay? Totally different ball game. That's a medical procedure. But what everybody's fighting for out there on the left and some on the right is abortion for everybody, abortion for anything, abortion for any reason. That's abortion for contraception, okay? That is absolutely totally wrong. So, this Proposition 1 that California and Mr. Governor Gavin Newsom is coming up with, let me show it to you here real quick. Um, you can see I'm on the California general election, November 8th, 2022. This is what they are going to be voting for in California. And right here, let me find it here. Okay, right in here. California law requires abortion providers to be licensed. In addition, abortions can only be performed on a viable fetus if pregnancy puts the health or life of the person who is pregnant at risk. And right there, they already changed it. It ain't person. The only people that can actually have a child is a woman. So by the woman being pregnant, the man is not in any danger ever, 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 ever. So they need to change that word right there. See how stupid all this stuff is. Um, in under state law, a fetus is considered viable if the fetus likely would be able to survive outside the uterus. Right now, that is the law. Okay. Now, if you look right down here, Proposition 1, I know it's hard for y'all to see this. Changes in the California Constitution to say the state cannot deny or interfere. Right there. Those two words, deny or interfere with a person's reproductive freedom, and that people have fundamental right to choose whether or not to have an abortion, whether or not to use contraceptives. Okay? So that those two little words, interfere and the other one, the interfere is the one that really brings the biggest attention. That means no matter what, the state cannot set any type of regulation or control over abortions. So if a lady gets pregnant because her and her boyfriend are going out on a night and they get the whoop whoop going and then they break up, but the lady's pregnant, but she says, I'm going to have this baby because I chose to do it. And she's going the right. And then all of a sudden, at about, I don't know, 9.5 months, she goes, wait just a minute. Wait, stop. I don't want this time. I don't want the baby. Abort it. They can abort full term day of delivery abortions. That's what California is asking for. Now there's some older stuff. I didn't go look at it because they haven't got it on the ballot like they got that one, but they're talking about infanticide 24 to 30 days after birth. Not the afterbirth, after the baby's born, 20 to 25 to 30 days or so, they can just kill the baby. That's downright murder. Downright murder. Yeah. I mean, that as if the baby hadn't come out, um, if the baby hasn't come out of the womb yet, it hasn't been, it doesn't matter. You could be a month past due, hasn't come out, you can have an abortion. Go take it out. And man, do I have some stuff to show y'all. Um, I'm sure I'm probably going to only show one video because of the fact that I don't want to waste a whole lot of time because both videos. No, I'm going to show both videos. The first video here is probably the longest one. It's only like 7 minutes, so it's not real long. But I'm actually going to shut up and let the video do all the talking. I apologize for the little drop downs. I was screen recording this as it was going, and I had a couple email notifications and stuff like that. But let's get this going. And this is the information that I want to pass on to you, showing what California wants to allow that happen and be happy about it. This is what Governor Gavin Newsom is so proud of. And even the California liberals, okay, which is surprising, but even most, about 79% of them are saying, hold on a minute. There needs to be some type of regulation. There needs to be some restrictions on it. You're just allowing to, and these are the people out there that want everybody in the world to have a electric car. But they're saying, hey, time out though. You putting too much freedom on this killing baby stuff. But I'll let y'all take a look at this and you tell me what you think.
This is the same doctor.
My name is Dr. Anthony Levatino. I'm a practicing obstetrician gynecologist, and I performed over 1,200 abortions. First, I'm going to describe a first trimester medical abortion. This is a procedure in which the mother swallows pills in order to terminate her baby, and it is performed up to the 9th week of pregnancy. The procedure involves 2 steps. Step 1. At the abortion clinic or doctor's office, the woman takes pills which contain mifepristone, also called RU46. RU46 blocks the action of a hormone called progesterone. Progesterone is naturally produced in the mother's body to stabilize the lining of the uterus. When RU46 blocks progesterone, the lining of the mother's uterus breaks down, cutting off blood and nourishment to the baby, who then dies inside the mother's womb. It is important to note that even after it has been taken, it is possible to reverse the effects of RU46 and save the baby if progesterone is administered. The sooner, the better. Step 2. 24 to 48 hours after taking RU46, the woman takes misoprostol, also called Cytotec, that is administered either orally or vaginally. RU46 and misoprostol together cause severe cramping, contractions, and often heavy bleeding to force the dead baby out of the woman's uterus. The process can be very intense and painful, and the bleeding and contractions can last from a few hours to several days. While she could lose her baby anytime and anywhere during this process, the woman will often sit on a toilet as she prepares to expel the child, which she will then flush. She may even see her dead baby within the pregnancy sac. At 9 weeks, for example, the baby will be almost an inch long, and if she looks carefully, she might be able to count the fingers and toes. After she has disposed of her baby, the woman may have bleeding and spotting for several weeks. Bleeding lasts, on average, 9 to 16 days. 8% of women bleed more than 30 days, and 1% require hospitalization because of heavy bleeding. RU46 is only FDA approved for the first 7 weeks of pregnancy. While RU46 can be used off-label up to 9 weeks, the failure rate increases as the pregnancy progresses. At 7 weeks, it has a 5% failure rate. At 8 weeks, an 8% failure rate, and at 9 weeks, a 10% failure rate. If failure occurs, she will usually be offered a surgical abortion. For the mother, medical abortion often causes abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, headache, and heavy bleeding. Maternal deaths have occurred, most frequently due to infection and undiagnosed ectopic pregnancy. First trimester surgical abortion called suction D&C, dilatation and curettage. This is the most frequently performed abortion and is used typically from 5 to 13 weeks of pregnancy. After administering anesthesia, the abortionist uses a speculum like this. This is placed inside the vagina and opened using this screw on the side, allowing the abortionist to see the cervix, the entrance to the uterus. The cervix acts as a gate that stays closed for the duration of pregnancy, protecting the baby until it is ready for birth. The abortionist uses a series of metal rods called dilators, like these, which increase in thickness, and inserts them into the cervix to dilate it, gaining access to the inside of the uterus where the baby resides. The baby has a heartbeat, fingers, toes, arms, and legs, but its bones are still weak and fragile. The abortionist takes a suction catheter like this one. This is a 14 French suction catheter. It's clear plastic, about 9 inches long, and it has a hole through the center, and is inserted through the cervix into the uterus. The suction machine is then turned on with a force 10 to 20 times more powerful than your household vacuum cleaner. The baby is rapidly torn apart by the force of the suction and squeezed through this tubing down into the suction machine, followed by the placenta. Though the uterus is mostly emptied at this point, one of the risks of a suction D&C is incomplete abortion. Essentially, pieces of the baby or placenta left behind. This can lead to infection or bleeding. In an attempt to prevent this, the abortionist uses a curette to scrape a lining of the uterus. The curette is basically a long-handled curved blade. Once the uterus is empty, the speculum is removed and the abortion is complete. The risks of suction D&C include perforation or laceration of the uterus or cervix, potentially damaging intestine, bladder, and nearby blood vessels, hemorrhage, infection, and in rare instances, even death. Future pregnancies are also at a greater risk for loss or premature delivery due to abortion-related trauma and injury to the cervix. Second trimester surgical abortion called dilatation and evacuation, or D&E. A D&E is performed between 13 and 24 weeks of pregnancy. After administering anesthesia, the abortionist uses a weighted speculum, like this one, that opens the vagina widely. Because second trimester babies are so large, this greater access facilitates a late-term abortion. Late-term abortion requires that the cervix be prepared 24 to 48 hours in advance with laminaria. Laminaria is a type of sterilized seaweed that absorbs water over 8 to 12 hours and swells to several times its original diameter. Once removed, metal dilators can be used to further open the cervix as needed. Once the cervix has been stretched open, the suction tube is placed inside. A baby at 20 weeks gestation is as big as the length of my hand, from head to rump, not counting the legs. The suction machine is turned on, and pale yellow amniotic fluid surrounding the baby is suctioned out through the catheters. With babies this big, they don't fit through catheters this size. The baby's bones and skull are too strong to be torn apart by suction alone.
20 weeks.
This is a Sofer clamp. A Sofer clamp is made of stainless steel. It's about 13 inches long. The business end is about 2.5 inches long and a 1/2 inch wide, and there are rows of sharp teeth. This is a grasping instrument. When it gets a hold of something, it does not let go. The abortionist uses this clamp to grasp an arm or a leg. Once he has a firm grip, the abortionist pulls hard in order to tear the limb from the baby's body. One by one, the rest of the limbs are removed, along with the intestines, the spine, and the heart and lungs. Usually the most difficult part of the procedure is extracting the baby's head, which is about the size of a large plum at 20 weeks. The head is grasped and crushed. The abortionist knows he has crushed the skull when a white substance comes out of the cervix. This was the baby's brains. The abortionist then removes skull pieces. He removes the placenta and any leftover parts of the baby with a curette, scraping the lining of the uterus for any remaining tissue. The abortionist then collects the baby parts and reassembles them to make sure that there are 2 arms, 2 legs, and all the pieces. Once all the parts have been accounted for, the abortion is complete. For the woman, this procedure carries a significant risk of major complications, including perforation or laceration of the uterus or cervix, with possible damage to the bowel, bladder, and other maternal organs. Infection and hemorrhage can also occur, which can even lead to death. Future pregnancies are also at greater risk for loss or premature delivery due to abortion-related trauma and injury to the cervix. Finally, I'm going to describe a 3rd trimester induced abortion, which is performed at 25 weeks to term. At this point, the baby is almost fully developed and viable, meaning he or she could survive outside the womb if the mother were to go into labor prematurely. Because the baby is so large and developed, this procedure takes 3 or 4 days to complete. On day 1, the abortionist uses a large needle to inject a drug called digoxin. Digoxin is generally used to treat heart problems, but a high enough dosage of digoxin will cause fatal cardiac arrest. The abortionist inserts the needle with the digoxin through the woman's abdomen or through her vagina and into the baby, targeting either the head, torso, or heart. The baby will feel it. Babies at this stage feel pain. When the needle pierces the baby's body and the digoxin takes effect, the life of the baby will end. The abortionist then inserts multiple sticks of seaweed called laminaria into the woman's cervix. They will slowly open up the cervix for delivery of a stillborn baby. While the woman waits for the laminaria to dilate her cervix, she carries her dead baby inside of her for 2 to 3 days. On day 2, the abortionist replaces the laminaria and may perform a second ultrasound to ensure the baby is dead. If the child is still alive, he administers another lethal dose of digoxin. The woman then goes back to where she is staying while her cervix continues to dilate. If she goes into labor and is unable to make it to the clinic in time, she will give birth at home or in a hotel. In this case, she may be advised to deliver her baby into a bathroom toilet. The abortionist then comes to remove the baby and clean up. If she can make it to the clinic, she will do so during her severest contractions and deliver her dead son or daughter. If the baby does not come out whole, then the procedure becomes a D&E, a dilation and evacuation, and the abortionist uses clamps and forceps to dismember the baby, piece by piece. Once the placenta and all the body parts have been removed, the abortion is complete. Late-term abortions have a high risk of hemorrhage, lacerations, and uterine perforations, as well as a risk of maternal death. Future pregnancies are also at a greater risk for loss or premature delivery due to abortion-related trauma and injury to the cervix. As I mentioned at the beginning, I'm Dr. Anthony Levatino, and in the early part of my career as an OBGYN, I performed over 1,200 abortions. One day, after completing one of those abortions, I looked at the remains of a preborn child whose life I had ended, and all I could see was someone's son or daughter. I came to realize that killing a baby at any stage of pregnancy for any reason is wrong. I want you to know today, no matter where you're at or what you've done, you can change. Make a decision today to protect the preborn. Thank you for...
That is absolutely the saddest thing. Yeah, exactly, Brandy. I don't think most people realize what they're doing when they do it. Um, they're just in their mind, they're following this big chant, women's rights, and stuff like that. And that's they don't even know what's going on. I'm gonna show one more video here real quick. It's not as long. Let me find it here. So with this video, he's actually the same doctor. He's testifying before Congress. We know how that goes a lot. But what I want you to pay attention to is when he's describing the exact same thing. Now he's only got like 5 minutes. You know they don't get a lot of time to talk in Congress, the committee meetings and stuff. Watch the people in the audience. You can tell they have no idea what goes into an abortion.
Witness is Dr. Anthony Levatino. Dr. Levatino is a board-certified obstetrician gynecologist. Over the course of his career, Dr. Levatino has practiced obstetrics and gynecology in both private and university settings, including as an associate professor of OBGYN at the Albany Medical College. And Dr. Levatino, we'll begin with you. Welcome.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. I only have 5 minutes, so I'm going to get right to it. Second trimester D&E abortions performed between roughly 14 and 24 weeks of gestation. Your patient today is 17 years old. She's 22 weeks pregnant. Her baby is the length of your hand plus a couple of inches. And she's been feeling her baby kick for the last several weeks. She's asleep on an operating room table. You walk into that operating room scrubbed and gowned, and after removing laminaria, you introduce a suction catheter into the uterus. This is a 14 French suction catheter. If she were 12 weeks pregnant or less, basically the width of your hand or smaller, you could basically do the entire procedure with this. But babies this big don't fit through catheters this size. After suctioning the amniotic fluid out from around the baby, you introduce an instrument called the Sofer clamp. It's about 13 inches long. It's made of stainless steel. The business end of this clamp is about 2.5 inches long and 1/2 inch wide. There are rows of sharp teeth. This is a grasping instrument. When it gets a hold of something, it does not let go. A D&E procedure is a blind abortion, so picture yourself introducing this and grabbing anything you can blindly and pull, and I do mean hard, and out pops a leg about that big, which you put down on the table next to you. Reach in again, pull out an arm about the same length, which you put down on the table next to you. And use this instrument again and again to tear out the spine, the intestines, the heart and lungs. Head on the baby that size is about the size of a large plum. Can't see it, but you've pretty good idea you've got it if you've got your instrument around something and your fingers are spread about as far as they go. You know you did it right if you crush down on the instrument and white material runs out of the cervix. That was the baby's brains. Then you can pull out skull pieces. And you have a day like I had a lot of times. Sometimes a little face comes back and stares back at you. Congratulations, you just successfully performed a second trimester D&E abortion. You just affirmed her right to choose.
Why did you end your practice of doing abortions?
I did over 1,200 abortions over a 4-year period in private practice, not counting the ones that I did during my training. I met my wife during my first year of training at Albany Medical Center. We got married about a year later and found that we had an infertility problem. After years of failed infertility treatment and several years trying to adopt a child, we were blessed with adopting a little girl that we named Heather in August of 1978. As sometimes happens in those situations, my wife got pregnant the very next month, and we had 2 children 10 months apart. 2 months short of my daughter Heather's 6th birthday, she was killed in an auto accident and literally died in her arms in the back of an ambulance. Anyone who has children might think they have some idea of what that feels like, but unless you've been through it yourself, you have no idea whatsoever. I know people find it hard to believe, but what do you do after a disaster? You bury your child and then you go back to your life. And I don't remember exactly how long it was after my daughter died that I showed up at Albany Medical Center OR number 9 to perform my first second trimester D&E abortion. I wasn't thinking of it as anything special. This was routine to me. But I reached in, literally pulled out an arm or leg, and got sick. You know, earlier on I described stacking up body parts on the side of the table. It's not to, gross people out, to use a simple term. When you do an abortion, you need to keep inventory. You have to make sure you get 2 arms and 2 legs and all the pieces. If you don't, your patient's going to come back infected, bleeding, or dead. So I soldiered on and finished that abortion. And I know it sounds, as I said, hard for people to believe, but I'm telling you straight up my experience. You know, after over 1,200 abortions, first and second trimester up to 24 weeks and all the rest of it, and being very dedicated to it, for the first time in my life, I really looked at that pile of body parts on the side of the table. And I didn't see her wonderful right to choose, and I didn't see all the money I just made. All I could see was somebody's son or daughter. And I stopped doing late-term abortions after that, and several months later stopped doing all abortions.
There you go. That's the truth about abortions. And we are talking about abortions for contraception, not health care. Okay. That's all I got for tonight. I just wanted to come out and share this. I know it's horrible information, but this is what's going on. And it's not only California who's doing it, they're the leaders of what's going on. And we all need to stand up for the people who can't stand up for themselves right now. So if you see this and this has touched you, share this out. Share this out to everybody, especially if you know somebody in California. Get it out there so they can see what exactly their government in that state is trying to do, trying to legalize that everybody can do. And you can do all that stuff up to the day of birth and after, if that goes far enough. But it's despicable. This is evil. Now, one day, these babies, these unborn babies, they will have somebody, and he is coming back. He is coming back, and probably sooner than later. They will have somebody to speak up for. Just because you've had one, if you've had one, that doesn't mean you are condemned to hell or anything like that. All sin is sin, and it's forgivable. Just have to ask and turn away from it. Jesus Christ is grace, mercy, and love, but he won't stand for all this evil forever. Okay? And it's not a person that's evil, it's the actions of what's doing that's evil, because this is just the same thing as the ancient biblical days when they would sacrifice their children to Molech, burn their children. Now they're just pulling apart. Murder is complete murder. Life begins at conception. It begins at conception because that's when the first cell divides into 2. Guess what? If your cells quit dividing, you just died. So if your cells start to divide, you're alive. It's that simple. I don't understand why they have such a hard time hearing that. But either way, share this out. Let's break Facebook. Let's break YouTube. Let's break Twitter. If anybody's on Twitter, whatever. Share it out there. Share it out there. Share it out there. We need to get this message because all the states need to join together and say no to abortion for contraception. Okay. I'm no to abortion all the way around, but I don't want anybody to die, and forgivable. So if somebody's life is in danger at the time, it's no longer an abortion. It's a medical decision. It's a medical treatment plan, not an abortion for contraception. Use a rubber. Don't do it. Whatever. Abstinence will keep it from happening. Pro-choice begins when you make the choice to do the action. After that, you got the consequences that go along with the action that you made. That's simple. Y'all have a very wonderful and blessed evening. I hope everybody has a good night's sleep. Hope this doesn't mess anybody up. But this is the truth. And this is what California and other states are starting to vote on. And it's only about 5 weeks away. It's important. Y'all have a good night. I will see you.